Winter is the best time of the year because of snow, spending time with family, and this past anime season. This season might have been the best in a really long time, with shows that even if they stood alone in a different season, they could be anime of the season contenders. This season didn't back down on anime that actually tries. So I'm gonna run this the same as I did last time, but synopsises might not be included. Check out my Winter 2019 Animes video for initial impressions, but these are my final impressions on the 2019 shows. First off, not all of these shows are completed yet, like Shield Hero or Dororo, so I'll talk about what I like about it so far. Also, I didn't finish the quintessential quintuplets, Kakaguri XX, Girly Air Force, obviously, and the Magnificent Kotobuki. So anyway, let's get to the first show. 2 words. Characters and animation. That's Mob Psycho 102 in a nutshell. With Season 1 being about Mob developing as a person, Season 2 is that same person developed even further with the relationships built in the first season with even better animation than the first season. Mob in this season struggles with a lot more than the first season actually. With all the relationships and the people he's made friends with, you'd think he'd have someone to confide in, but no. Reagan and the others can all help with social stuff, but when it comes to getting in touch with his spiritual side, no one can help him. The antagonists this season are actually terrifying, because on one hand, you have these beings that are as strong or even stronger than Mob, but also are basically Mob himself. These antagonists are just normal people who happen to have psychic powers like Mob. The difference between Mob and the antagonists are that they went down the wrong path. With no person to guide them like Reagan and Mob's various friends, they went down dark paths and came out cold individuals, and the second season shows you that through the many arcs that fill the 12-episode season. It's so short, but so jam-packed with great arcs that develop the characters even further. There's even a dedicated arc to Reagan and how inseparable the bond he has with Mob is. When the character-driven arcs can stand together with the over-the-top action arcs, and even complement them, you've got a stellar series. So I can't talk about the second season without concluding on the second reason why this is super good. Sakuga. What is this strange weeb word, you may ask? This is just a term that means hand-drawn animation in Japanese, but overseas this term transforms into more frames for excessively detailed animation. This season is full of really great Sakuga moments from all of episode 5 to basically the last 4 or 5 episodes. The detail in the animation is something unprecedented from a TV anime. This show has a movie-like quality to it, probably because in Japan they showed a lot of these episodes in theaters, so Studio Bones wanted to show up and prove that TV anime can have this level of quality. If you haven't watched it yet, watch it. It's slowly become one of my all-time favorites, and I could probably rewatch it 1,000 times. If you want to watch this show, it's on Crunchyroll. The Rising of the Shield Hero is a show that's really surprised me. It sounded like a generic isekai, but it's much more than that. Instead of the main character coming to the world either starting from nothing or being super overpowered, it starts with our protagonist getting summoned to a new world with an otherworldly weapon, starting with nothing, and then getting bullied into even more nothing. The best thing about this show is the quick tonal change. Getting accused for sexual assault changes this series from a fun isekai romp to a depressing isekai journey. From someone who is favored and then looked up upon to someone who is looked down upon by everyone, it's a tough road for the Shield Hero. Now, this show is still going because it's 25 episodes, but from what I've seen, I love a lot about it. Now, Fumi is still a good person, but the way he handles things is pretty harsh. Well, when the entire kingdom goes against you, you're gonna get pretty cynical. He has to rely on shady methods to progress in the world. Once he gets a slave that he can rely on, things get a little easier on himself. Raphtalia is the slave that he obtains, and she's honestly the best girl. Without her, Naofumi would have been stuck. He raises her from a child who can't protect herself to someone who can stand on her own. She changes from just a slave required to serve to someone who's actually dependable and extremely trustworthy. Naofumi gains an ally he can actually rely on and trust in the terrible world. The way the show captures the hole Naofumi is in is spectacular. Every time he encounters someone in the capital, he gets less benefits than his other heroes, especially from vendors. Every time he encounters a royal, he can't trust them. Every time he encounters the other heroes, they just look down on him. His entire personality turns from happy otaku to extremely cautious shield hero. In one episode, he faces the other heroes in a battle and the royals cheat. The entire stadium is against him and he can't handle the ridicule and breaks down. But this is when the light at the end of the tunnel shines. Raphtalia has complete faith in Naofumi and will always stand by his side. They work so well together, it's hard to see one without the other. The way the shield hero progressively gets stronger is great too. His shield has so much utility. Sometimes I forget that this is the shield hero. So many forms that Naofumi can use at his leisure, turning him into an unbreakable force. I have only a few complaints, however. He gets an egg and obtains a rare Philolio Queen, which is this big bird that transforms into your everyday lolly. I don't like her. She seems just like another weapon that the shield hero can rely on. It's just a personal gripe. Another problem was the 2 or 3 episodes where I felt like nothing was happening. They obtain Philo, which is the Philolio Queen, and they go help towns in need. I thought this part was really boring, but after realizing what it was for, it made it a little better. It's only 2 to 3 episodes out of the 25 we're getting, so it's not that big of a problem. Again, it's just a personal gripe. Fortunately, this show is still ongoing, but unfortunately, I can't say how much I like it till it ends, so I'll just say like I did before, I'm excited to see where this goes. If you want to watch this show, it's on Crunchyroll. The Promised Neverland, right next to Dororo, would be anime of the season if it weren't for sequels like Mob Psycho 102 that blow every show this season out of the water. Incredibly enjoyable, even after the first episode, The Promised Neverland was a show that executed its thriller formula to a T. Now I'm still not going to reveal the entire synopsis, but I'll scoot around it. The Promised Neverland is about kids at the Grace Field House. They live a happy life until one incident changes everything. Now the kids want to plan an escape from the orphanage. After the first episode, the show figures out how to play with the audience. You think one thing will happen because they forecast it in the show, but actually they throw a curveball and it will leave you speechless. Other than cleaning up how the manga looked, the anime removed a lot of unnecessary dialogue, rearranged some plot points for more shock value, and the best thing of all, it makes it into a different medium. If the movie, or anime in our case, has to tell us what's going on, it's not utilizing the medium correctly. It's fine in manga because it's literature, and in literature you can explain things because there's no movement or sound. Instead of just showing a chase scene, they use jump cuts, which are known for showing passage of time in film. Instead of telling you specific things, they foreshadow them by showing, not telling. It really played up the strength of sound and motion with what they can do with adaptations. The show's also focused on outsmarting others. Ray, Norman, and Emma are the smartest children in the orphanage, so they use that to plan an escape from the orphanage. Norman, being the smartest of all 3 of them, is always 3 steps ahead with all of his plans and can see through people. He's super good. But with the antagonists of this show, they're as smart as the kids. When 2 opposing forces collide that are the same, it turns into a very well done cat and mouse game. Kinda like Death Note, outsmarting the opponent is the way of the game. They also do the same thing as Mob Psycho 100, which is where they humanize the antagonists. They're truly terrifying individuals, but they have a human side that any normal person could relate to. There's so many good twists, the story and the world are really interesting, the characters are really good, there's so much to like about the show. Give it a shot, it's 100% worth your time. If you want to watch this show, it's on Crunchyroll. Dororo is the sleeper show of this season. Barely anyone I know has watched this show, but it's blown me away. So my description of the show last time was just based on the first episode, so I was kinda wrong. What the show is actually about is the cursed child, Hyakimaru, goes on a journey with a kid he found named Dororo to kill demons and gain back everything that was taken from him from a deal his father made to save his land. This is another case where it's an adaptation done way better. Dororo in the 60s was very okay. I think it didn't take off because imagine this dark story of a limbless guy getting his limbs back with the art style of Astro Boy. Yeah, it doesn't look right. They also had Hyakimaru talk in the original. In 2019 Dororo, he's a silent protagonist. With no voice, we can only tell his personality through body expressions, and it works well with an anime. They also changed the art style to make it more serious looking, so it works a lot better than the Astro Boy looking 60s version. The last thing they changed is the acquisition of his limbs and senses. I'm not 100% sure how the old one worked, but in this new adaptation, they make every scene where he gets a limb terrifying, because he'll be in agony or something when he acquires a new part. It really shows how much of a shock it is to obtain something you've never had in the first place, especially when it comes to certain parts, like his hearing. I think in the old Dororo, Hyakimaru has really good perception, but with this adaptation, Hyakimaru and some of the other blind people have a thing known as a life sense. Instead of living in pitch black darkness, all living things have a certain color and shape to Hyakimaru. Gray means that they are harmless, and red means danger, like most things. This causes the show to do some unique things with the life force and play with who's good and who's bad. The arcs for this show are either 1 or 2 episode arcs so far. Each arc either reveals something new about a character or shows a situation that's really interesting. Each character has time to shine in their own episodes, and each village in need has different situations where they don't just help then leave. No, it shows a self-contained story with twists and turns that keep you on edge. Every episode is super interesting, well-paced, and phenomenal. That's hard to make each episode interesting, but all the situations from start to finish are done very well. This show is so fire. It knows that it's fire because the opening itself is called Fire. Everything from the way they change things from the original to how the characters develop is so good. If you want to watch this show, unfortunately it's only on Prime Video, but it's so good. Please, if you get the chance, watch it. Definitely worth your time. Okay, I had super high hopes for Kaguya Love is War. It didn't really drop in quality, and they still used a unique shot composition like I mentioned in the last video, but like most rom-coms, the romance doesn't progress. If you don't remember what the show was about, it was about 2 high schoolers in a very rich school who eventually gain feelings for one another, but the problem is they're both super prideful, so they try to make each other confess rather than confessing themselves. The whole too prideful so they can't confess their love for each other type thing is fine, but it can get tiresome. It happens in a lot of rom-coms where couples won't do something for fear of what will happen. Romance like that can happen, but it can be really annoying after a certain point. With the over-the-top nature this show is going for, I think it's alright just because of how the characters are. It's not like they're normal individuals. They're so high in the social ladder that romance is the last thing that they're thinking of. Kaguya is a super sheltered individual, so not knowing most common things like interaction is tough. Shirogane is a character who's just a normal person in a school with extremely influential people that he's the president of, so tons of pressure is put on him already. Not only is Kaguya someone who's unapproachable, he develops an attraction to her, but only thinks of her cold nature when he thinks about asking her out. The situations they put themselves into are your normal rom-com situations, but they're so exaggerated that they're super funny. This show had me rolling. The comedy is so well timed. If you don't like the romance, watch it for the comedy, because that alone is making this series extremely enjoyable. So how the episodes go is that each episode has 4 parts to it, which are different situations in their everyday lives. The episodes have parts where it progresses the romance, and also shows fun situations that actually develop the characters. They aren't just flat pieces of paper, they're more round and dynamic characters. Kaguya might come off as a cold individual, but she's just a regular girl who was sheltered so much that no one would go near her. Shirogane has to look like a higher up when in actuality he's just a commoner, unlike the rest of the school. Chika is a fun character who seems ditzy but can actually be manipulative. Ishigami is an antisocial being who, when asked about certain things he's knowledgeable about, he kinda goes on crazy rants. More than just meets the eye type of characters. With these fun characters, comedy that actually lands a lot, and very interesting premise, it's a show you should check out. If you want to watch the show, it's on Crunchyroll. Alright, that's it. All of these shows are great like I mentioned in the beginning, so you should check them all out. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, please. See you in the next video.